What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another YouTube video. Now, I did try to do the Okarun recap on my iPad, but it didn't work. The audio just wasn't working. So I will be doing it on my phone. Hopefully you guys like this style of content, but we have a lot of content to get into, so we should probably get into that right now. So let's get into it. So we start off this episode by seeing Okarun, Momo, Ira, Kinta, and Evil Eye chilling in the robot from last episode. And we see that they're trying to figure out how to get it to move because the giant kaiju, is coming after them. Kinta's using his robot book as the instruction to get it to move, and they all want to click the lever at the same time. And when they do that, everything falls apart. The hand falls apart. We see the robot stick his tongue out. The other hand spins around in a circle, and a bird comes out of the chest. Then after all that, they still can't get it to move. And then we see Kinta scroll through his book to try to get it to move. He finds a lever and it moves, but it ends up tripping on a telephone wire or something like that, right? And then he falls down, and when he tries to get back up, we see that his face has implemented into the ground. Like his face left a mark on the ground. The kaiju kicks him in the face, and the airbags cover Momo and the rest of the crew. They go flying, and Okarun gets ejected out of the giant robot mech. He's taking a lot of L's in this episode, and he's not really doing too much in this episode. The kaiju grabs the robot's leg with his tail and just starts throwing it, and then he starts slamming it back and forth. Then we see Okarun flying out of his chair, and then we see that he has a parachute to help him safely land. And then we have him trying to get out of the seatbelt, and as he's trying to get out of the seatbelt, he tumbled onto the ground pretty goddamn hard. Then, out of nowhere, we see that the Evil Eye has broken out of the robot before the kaiju is about to step on the robot, and the kaiju does end up stepping on Evil Eye. Then we see the kaiju roar and start absolutely beating up and shooting a laser onto the robot, but Evil Eye was able to lift up his foot to knock the kaiju down. He throws him and it trips him, but then when he falls, a big gust of wind is able to send Evil Eye flying, and he flies right to Okarun. Okarun runs after him to make sure he's okay, and Evil Eye, the first thing that he says is, "Can we fight now?" And then Okarun says that there is no time to fight, and then the kaiju again starts shooting a big laser at the robot. And as he's doing this, Okarun tells Evil Eye that he can fight him if he needs to, one time to beat him. But as we see, the kaiju is about to step on Okarun and Evil Eye. But Kinta, controlling the robot, was able to block it with his hand. And as he blocked it with his hand, he remembers that this is made out of nanoskin, which means that anything he thinks of, it will happen. So he gives the robot a huge upgrade, and he starts to run at the giant kaiju and hit a clean punch onto his stomach. Then as he punches him, he's like Pegasus, like his name is Pegasus or whatever. But as he punches him, he falls down a little and sends the kaiju flying. He gets right back up, and he starts charging at the kaiju again as he is smiling and calls himself the Pegasus again. But the kaiju grabs his arm with his tail and starts absolutely slamming him like a ton of times on the ground. But he is able to punch him as he is getting thrown. Okarun is like super happy that he's able to do that as the robot kicks the kaiju away. The kaiju charges up a big laser beam to try to stop it, but with Kinta's giant robot hands, he's actually able to block it, but his hand does get chopped off. He throws the chopped off hand at the kaiju, and it hits him right in the face. The rocket punch, that's what I think he called it. He puts it back on his hand after it came back to him, after he knocked the kaiju down, and he grabs his tail and starts spinning him around in a circle and throws him into a big building. Then the robot starts running after the kaiju, and at like supersonic speed, as he said, don't mess with the Pegasus or something like that. But as he is running, he does a mean jab to the thing, knocking the kaiju down, and then he starts to aura farming again. The kaiju gets really mad and starts chomping at his feet, but Kinta jumps over and knocks him out with a punch. The kaiju was able to get back up, and he tried to bite the head off of the robot, but the robot was able to use his hands to hold the robot down, and the kaiju is about to shoot a big laser beam at everyone. And then we see the flashback of Kinta, where Kinta was he was bullied, he was called fat, all because he liked robot and playing with robots. At the same time, we also get to see that he had always dreamed of driving a giant robot, and he practiced for it because he thought that he would be able to eventually drive or pilot a robot. So he practiced motion sickness. But then we see him get up and try to grab the hand that fell off, as he's also in the flashback grabbing his robot toy. And he said, I will not let these opinions change who I am and the fact that I do love robots, which is actually pretty valid, I think. He gets back up with the angry face, and he's very mad at what just happened. The robot starts to break down on him, but he is able to repair it with his imagination. And he starts running at the kaiju. As he's running to the kaiju, he jumps and hits the back of the kaiju's head, which is actually a clean shot. And it actually does it twice. And then we see him hopping on a bunch of roller coasters to practice motion sickness. He grabs one of the horns on top of the kaiju's head and throws him onto the ground. And the kaiju goes flying and actually does get hit on the ground. And then the kaiju tries to throw something at the robot, but the robot punches him in the face and makes him drop the I think it was a light tower, and out of nowhere, he comes from the sky and slams down on the kaiju, actually trying to aura farm. We see that Okarun and Evil Eye were running to the robot in the fight scene, and we see the robot get up, and we see that the kaiju went invisible. And out of nowhere, the robot gets hit with a giant attack, and he falls to the ground, looking all around. But then we do see that not only is the glasses on the robot broke, the glasses broke on Kinta. We see that Kinta opens his pockets, and he has a ton of other glasses. He says he can also add accessories to his robot with his imagination, which is actually true. He can actually do that. But the airbags do mess him up and make him fall down with his leg chopped off. The airbags are actually destroying it. Then the kaiju grabs him he uses his tail to grab him by the leg and starts absolutely slamming him over and over and over again, and eventually throws him on the ground. His arms and legs do break off, and again the airbags come to try to mess Kinta up. And then Okarun says, press the ejection button, but he can't because the airbags are preventing him from reaching it. Then we see a big giant Momo hand grab a spike to pop all of the airbags. And she says that she's getting very, very motion sickness. Okarun says the nanoskin must be able to use the powers of the users inside of the robot, because as we see, Ira uses her yokai powers to then eventually have a bunch of hair wrap around the kaiju, so she will always be able to see where he is. Momo sends him up into the sky as she uses her powers to grab metal around the area to help build the robot, and then she slams him down, and then everything goes back to normal, and everyone that was in the area was able to see the robot and take pictures. Momo says we have to turn it back into the house, but she doesn't know how, and Kinta says, remember, use your imagination. She uses her imagination to transform it into the house, but it doesn't work. It transforms into like a house UFO thing, and we see that Okarun was actually also in the crowd with the evil eye. But then we cut back to the house, and Kinta starts crying because he was actually able to finally drive the robot. As he was driving and as that happens, we also see that Momo and Ira got very sick and immediately went to go throw up. Momo was doing these crazy flips to get to a place to throw up. But we see again that Okarun is there with Evil Eye. Okarun buys Evil Eye something hot and picks up the kaiju as everyone chases them to try to take the kaiju. As they run and they eventually get back, Gigi can't stop complaining about his back, and then we see that Kinta is trying to say that he carried that fight, which it was kind of unfair because it was his battle because he's the new character. But we see that Okarun finds a zipper on the kaiju and opens it up, and we see Wamola, who is an alien girl, and we then see Momo and Ira crawl out of the house saying like, dude, can you help me change my house back to normal? And then we see Wamola kissing Okarun, and then we see her heart explode. And then that's how the episode ends off. So if I had to rate this episode from like a 1 to 10, I'd probably give it an 8. It was a really good episode. We finally got introduced to Wamola, which I was really hoping for, and I'm glad that we did end up finally finding Wamola. So I hope you guys liked this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.